Hello and welcome to another Let's Play. Me, GamerWolfSix of Shelter. Before we start, if you're interested in getting this game, it's on the internet for free. But if you want the most up-to-date version earlier, then you go to their Patreon. And, if you want to support them, do that. Anyways, in the last Let's Play, we fought on the rooftop, and things got desperate, as, the other routes. But then Rune saved us when we were falling. Anyways, also, I'm reading this now. I retraced my journey from a minute ago, but this time without fear. And not alone. Oh, I guess we already read that thing? Let's read it. Once we fly past Shelter's edge, watch the monsters still storm the top deck. My heart doesn't tremble with desperation to survival anymore. Doggy. It beats with as much joy as his. Good music. Usually pack mentality would be a very challenging and straining process for me, especially because of how I felt about my life among the dogs in Shelter recently. Canine powers come from their inspirational relationships, and the ability of connecting with the mutual understanding between people. I felt alone among so many friends, and that hindered my affinity to the canines. Right now, those thoughts felt so distant and insignificant. Even if I had the whole world against me, and even if Rune doesn't always seem to be the most dependable person, I know we both would put our very lives on the line for each other's sake. Not a necessity, but because we found happiness in complementing each other. Divided, we're miserable. United, we are free. As we are weak alone, but strong as a pack. Okay, now it's new content. Because, there's an update. Yeah. Backup. God, I miss being able to back up. I love Clace's games. I hate how I can't back up. If my coding is correct, you finished the last build, and you loaded your save state in a spot after Rune's tragic backstory, right? I added a few super important new bits in the backstory, and that's probably going to change your experience of this month's new content, so I strongly recommend rereading those. Final mix. Well, let's do a safety save. Do we have those? I guess so. Nah, whatever. I don't care. I mean, I might just go back to him and have you guys read it while I silently read it. Shelter was being overrun by monsters, both on the ground and inside. The dogs were struggling to defend themselves against those disturbing amalgamations of fur, scales, and feathers. They strained themselves past their limits to protect themselves and home. Powers that lay dormant inside their souls finally found a path to manifest in the face of crisis. Canine potential reaches beyond merely their own selves. Sorry. With every desperate howl, more dogs realized their true might in unity with others. Then the canine warriors on the ground outside heard a different distant call, a canine howl, and a human shout coming way from up and from the top deck of Shelter. Looking up, they could barely make out two figures standing at the very edge of the deck. They were surrounded by monsters. The situation looked dire, but those who heard the stories from the past weren't scared. Those who knew were filled with hope. Those were the voices heralding the coming of daylight. The monsters swarmed the top deck of Shelter, and yet more of them were constantly coming from the Tower Mountain. Actually, that does beg a question. I guess maybe it would have to change the whole, when somebody turns into a monster, you forget about them or not. Because Burry could remember, all his friends and did the ice things. But then when it came to, what's his name? Rune, he didn't remember his non-biological father, even though he changed right in front of him. It was just that person changed, like, why am I here? Who is this thing? Oh no, it's a monster. Anyways, the monsters swarmed the top deck shelter, and yet more of them were constantly coming from the tower and mountain. There didn't seem to be any prey in the area. Those of the canines who didn't lock themselves inside shelter were fighting amongst the monsters on the ground below. Only 2 traces of pure life still remained on the top deck, and that's where most of the ravenous hunters gravitated towards. Those 2 lives felt magnificent, powerful, and rich. They flew high over the top deck, brightening the skies with joy, making the monsters drool with overwhelming craving. The promise of a feast pushed the beasts forward, close to the warm souls, like 2 torches in the cold and darkness. But then something changed. The warmth had grown so much it burned and blinded. What had been 2 separate flames a moment earlier suddenly became a single, giant inferno of life. To the surprise of the beasts, a much humbler emotion started emerging from their chaotic minds, eclipsing even their feral hunger and fury. They didn't even have a chance to act on their doubts, though. When the 2 warriors fell right in the middle of the swarm, everything grew silent for just the length of a single breath. And then the center of the pack exploded with sounds of dozens of overlapping slashes, when pieces of monster limbs splayed all around and flew back down a hall of half-frozen chunks. Those of the creatures who didn't run right away jumped right into the center of the chaos, with boiling fury and desperation. However, even those soon left the battlefield in more pieces than they arrived. Once the 2 men finally managed to take a break, they stood confidently and smiled ear to ear. Rune and Luke were connected in pack mentality, and they felt happier and more powerful than they had in months. As for the monsters, it truly was a rare sight to see those immortal beings cowering in fear. Some of those who had ears kept them splayed in submission. But in the end, it simply wasn't part of their nature. Once they regained their composure, they charged back at the human and the husky, roaring and snarling. The warriors dashed in separate directions, and their blades shone through the battlefield, bringing destruction to any creature unfortunate to be standing in their way. Luke benefited from Rune's world-class weapon-wielding skills and his lifelong experience of slaying monsters. Together, their battle with their minds in perfect unity, they dominated the battlefield with canine war instincts, canine blade arts, and even Rune's own improved combination techniques. Let me just see what this is. Okay. Rune was even further enhanced by Luke's spectacular flexibility in utilizing all types of mana. The sights of colorful sparks and smudges of light contrasted with the gore splaying on the bloody floods. The weirdly beautiful sounds of perfect cuts told tales of each snuffed life. The snouts like crossfire or crescent edge mixed with the types of the split roast, and sloppy seconds. Horny. The air was getting more saturated with uncountable charges of mana of all types. And the overabundance of it started exploding into the weirdest minor natural phenomena. A plethora of thunderclaps, electrical discharges, sudden bursts. Let me just look at I might turn the audio down just a tad. There we go. Sudden bursts of flames, explosions, and of pressured air, bright flashes, refracted light, and moments of sudden darkness dispersed the magic away from the battlefield. With access to that much magic at their disposal, both Luke and Rune could fight to their fullest. With the power of rodent mana, the husky procured a solid metal baton for Luke, allowing him to dual wield again. Rune himself Didn't need anything more than he already had. His relic weapon, the shield sword, maybe wasn't overly flashy, but it held a simple power he found flexible and fun. Whatever he cut, he could conjure a barrier of a solid light as an afterimage. It was durable on the sides and sharp on the edges. He consistently used it for defense, offense, and maneuverability. On the stump of his right arm, he had his other relic strapped on, a black metal guard, its hexagonal pattern similar to that of the blade. He was called a sword shield, and Rune didn't use its power as much as through the fight. He didn't need to. His body was carved from his earlier puppyhood to be his country's sharpest sword. Carved? And even though he was far from his prime, fighting against small fry like this was still nothing to him. There was less and less of them around. Soon he would need to chase after monsters further across the deck. And that's fine. He can run all day after all. He can. Suddenly I trip. I don't let go of my weapons, so I twist my body and land on my shoulder, instead of falling flat on my face. I'm out of breath, and all of my muscles burn. I feel like I just finished running up a steep mountain. But we're still in the middle of a fight. I hear the monster shrieks, and when I look up, 4 of the flying beasts swoop down right on me, noticing my moment of weakness. I'm too weak to do anything. In between my shallow, ragged breaths, I can't even muster enough breath to call for help. Whoop. But then, a second before they can get to me, Rune swoops in between the 4 monsters midair, and then the tip of his blade, letting out a golden magical sparks. Golden shower! Hey, if you're into that, you do you, buddy. Rune flips and twists, in a sound of near simultaneous 4 slashes rings through my ears, followed by a sudden brightness of golden sparks spewing out of the blade with each slash. It was 4 monsters just a moment ago, is 16 pieces of wings and decapitated bodies spewing gore all over the ground, sizzling golden sparks. Rune lands by my side. With a single slash, he conjures a barrier covering to protect me from the falling blood and chunks of flesh. Thanks. Sorry I ran out of breath. It's fine, mate. We took care of so many of them already. Yeah, we should be able to get back to the control tower easily. Oh, do you want to finish already? People are fine, so let's do this. Just 5 more minutes. Hey, I'll go in there. You have fun while protecting me. No, Rune. 4.5? Please, Luke. Sorry, we have to hurry. We had our fun. Rune whines. I promise I'll make it up to you somehow, after all this is over. If you want to slay monsters with me, we can go out into the tundras for a day, and... Ha! No way. You know I can't leave shelter, mate. Yeah, I shouldn't leave shelter either. But we can figure it out. They can manage on their own, just for one day. No, I mean I literally can't. Huh? Literally can't what? Well, I mean, leave. Luke, remember that one time when I came back from the capital? I said I managed to haggle out our limited autonomy from the wolves? Actually... Suddenly, he makes a backflip and decapitates a lanky monster with long claws that was trying to sneak up on him. He follows up by thrusting the sword over my head, piercing the head of a flying creature 10 meters above me. The monster slams on the floor, just in front of Rune, and the husky retrieves the sword. You know, mate, maybe this isn't the best time for that. Tch. I squint my eyes, staring a hole in his head. He doesn't look at me, but I know very well he means to stare on... Well, he feels my stare on him. He grumbles. Crap, that's awkward. I was so sure I told you at one point. Well, listen, mate. Rune takes a deep breath, weighing his words. Then, his ears twitch. He stares at me with his eyes wide open. Listen. What? Then I can finally hear it. Flapping wings. But it's very, very high above, over the mountains. It looks like a dragon-ass dragon. Like not a chimera, but a dragon. Something huge is approaching us. Crap, this one's gonna be a bit tricky. You have to get me to the control tower quickly. I need to shoot the turret and scare them all off. Roger that. Rune tugs me under his arm and dashes over the cold metal floor towards the entrance of the control tower, dodging the leftover monster attacks. As you get closer, praying that in our minds for the emergency power to have been turned on by Max already. We hear a terrible roar from the huge flying monsters, and the other creatures turn their heads towards it. We do too. Towering dragon-like creature lands right on top of the elevated platform by the turret and lets out a deafening roar. Then, it bites the turret's metal barrel. Filled with fear and disbelief, seeing that all of the monsters suddenly switching their bloodlust from us at the turret instead. The thick metal doesn't yield, but its sharp squealing hits us with panic and uncertainty. If they manage to damage the turret, this is going to be the end for us. Rune! I know. Rune lets go of me and then backflips over my head. With a few kick slashes all around me, he conjures a barrier, a cage for my protection. He then lands on top of it and then dashes right at the monster, salting the sky as a blaze turret. I kneel down, heaving heavily and trying my best to keep myself together. After the past minutes of non-stop fighting, it feels like the exhilaration from Rune's company is the only thing that kept me from passing out all this time. I'm filled with excitement's pride, watching him dash between the monsters, close to the huge winged one gnawing at the metal barrel. At one time, I swear I can hear something cracking and breaking. The throat and the underbelly of the dragon-like monster starts glowing. The red and blue sparks spew from the corner of its maw. Its chest rises, and without even taking a glance at Rune, it flips its thick, spiky tail right at him. Rune doesn't use a shield sword at the time. Instead, he blocks the incoming tail slam with the dark metal shield attached to his right forearm. The massive tail, swishing through the air with the momentum of a falling avalanche just a moment ago, unexpectedly comes to an abrupt halt the moment it touches the shield. The beast finally turns its head over towards the jumping husky and lets go of the turret and moves its head away. To avoid being slashed by its sword, it immediately attempts to bite. But right before the giant jaws can close down on Rune's torso, he extends his right arm toward the monster's neck, pushing forward his shield. The sword shield, his second powerful relic. There's a brief flash. The monster gets blasted away by a dozen meters, and the numerous puncture wounds litter its body, transferring the exact structure force it had tried to lash out at Rune just a moment ago. It's always an unforgettable spectacle to see Rune in action. I have never seen a more powerful canine warrior at work. He was at his strongest when he first came to shelter. He wielded a powerful set of armor and an enchanted sword, and there wasn't a single scar on his body. But even now, with only one eye, one hand, and his old enchanted gear lost, he still fights with as much passion as always, maybe even more so now than before. He jumps after the staggered beast, readying his sword for a strike, flying through the red and blue sparks spewing from his prey's dragon-like maw. Leaping right after the monster's neck, he twists mid-air. The edge of his blade shines in the moonlight. Before he can slash, the sudden gust from the beast's wings makes him fumble like a leaf through the air. With a quick slash, he conjures a platform behind him to stay in place. The radiance in that creature's throat and underbelly burns with fury, painting a mesmerizing afterimage of a glow that ends sparks over the starry sky. As it flips, it swings its thorny tail right behind Rune's barrier platform. And then, right before the massive tail smashes the barrier of light into a bunch of glowing shards, Rune jumps once again at the monster's head, with all the strength in his powerful legs. I hold my breath. I don't even dare blink, watching these final moments of battle from behind the shimmering barrier cage. I have a breathtaking profile view of the scene unfold in front of my eyes. The monster's twisted mid-flip, staring at the comparatively tiny dog charging at him with the shining relic sword. Unable to run away or twist its limbs to fend off Rune's assault anymore, the monster opens its glowing maw and blasts him away with a blindingly bright magic breath, accompanied by a cacophony of electrical discharge. It's so potent that even my own eyes hurt, and when I can finally open them again, I watch with absolute confusion as the barrier cage around me cracks and crumbles. Oh no. A giant flying monster glows all over, with a quick electrical discharge running across its body, slowly dying out with each flap of its wings. I can't find Rune at first. I see the monster open its maw, as if ready to bite, but I still can't notice Rune due to my vision still being blurred from the sudden breath of light. Then a small barrier of light appears in the air near the angry monster, and I see Rune lunging towards the middle of Shelter's top deck, away from his enemy. He skids over the smooth metal surface, and I'm sure he's going to slow down and stop safely, but he stumbles and slams straight into one of the metal beams. He falls to one knee, with a weak, painful yelp. Luke. Where are you, Luke? I take a deep breath into my tired, burning lungs and run towards him as fast as my exhausted legs can take me. There are no monsters between me and Rune, but he's already being attacked by the two smaller ones. He neither runs away nor rushes towards them to finish the battle on his own terms, as he would usually do. Instead, he crouches and waits for them to come to him. He finally dashes forward, making a wide slash with the heavy beast covered with hair and feathers. He misses. The monster jumps over the blade, attempting to bite Rune in the shoulder. But he twists around and delivers another wide slash, chomping the beast's head in two. The other one, a cat-like lanky creature with scales all over its muzzle, leaps at him too, swings its sharp, black claws, and Rune only barely manages to conjure the barrier in time. I see that Rune is weak and disoriented. His accuracy and reaction time is wonky, and the sneaky monster tries to take advantage of that. I absorb and burn yet another charge of avian man inside my heavy, tired body, and leap at them with all my strength, as fast as an arrow. Right before the monster can attempt another attack at Rune, I drive the whole length of my blade through the back of its head. And then, by a split second of reflex, I bend back and suck my belly in, barely avoiding disembowelment by Rune. He still cuts clean through the front of my cloak, though. Rune, careful! Luke, I'm sorry. You came from the upward, and I couldn't smell you, so it's so easy to mistake you for a monster. If only I use empathy. Are you okay? You got hit pretty hard. Oh, well, no, not really. I think I'm kinda blind now, mate. Rune glances at me with a sheepish smile, looking vaguely in my direction, not exactly at my face, but somewhere over my shoulder. He may try to act cheerful, but his tilted ears and lowered tail reveal his true discomfort to me. A roar and the sound of massive wings. Okay, it's coming towards us. Closer to us brings back to attention, the huge dragon monster rushes towards us, along with the pack of smaller ones underneath him. Okay, this is not ideal. We can't win this fight if we don't do something about Rune's eyes quickly. Holy crap. It's okay, I'm not afraid. Everything's going to be alright. Do pack mentality with me again. I can be your eyes. You know, I think it really is fine. How about I sit this one out? Just give me a minute to catch my breath. What? Dude, we don't have a minute. A shadow looms over us. The flying monster rises high over us, covering the only currently visible moon. I see it taking a deep breath, and a swarm of luminous sparks flows in between its sharp, long teeth. Its throat underbelly brightens up again. I can't defeat it on my own. Please, Rune, snap out of it. There's a charge of canine mana already burning through me. I desperately seek out a connection with Rune. I find it. Tired, scared, but hopeful. That's Rune, alright. But then, far, far away, I hear a howl. I feel the excitement, confidence, impatience. It doesn't feel exactly like Rune anymore, but I know that this voice isn't coming out of any specific direction. It feels so far away, but it comes from the quiet Rune. He sits down and holds my hand, though through the glowing connection between us, he pulls a charge of my mana out of me, and I comply. He takes a deep breath, and the sounds of concentrated magic crackle through the air around us. We start shedding a gentle aura, and the howling inside my head grows louder and closer. I'm not afraid, Luke. I know that when I'm at my weakest, a hero will save me. A giant dragon monster looming over us throws its open maw in our direction. I close my eyes, turn my head away from the blinding light. And I finally answer that faraway call. Save me? Hero? Hero! There's a whole bunch of dark mana there, it seems. The monster let a beam of deadly electric light out of its maw. Its deafening thunderclap rumbled through the hills and mountains. The numerous carcasses of slain beasts burned down to a crisp, and the stench of smeared flesh spread over the battlefield in a wave of black smoke. Giant flying dragon didn't care if any of its brethren would be caught in the onslaught. Some of them were. That didn't matter. After all, they were all mortal, but eternal. Maybe that's just how the creature justified it. Or maybe it didn't think that deep at all. Even with flashes of clarity, a monster's mind is still chaotic in nature. What mattered in the end was snuffing out the enemy in front of it. The two specks of life, so disturbingly pure, yet eternal. And so, as the roar ceased, and only the black smoke lingered over shelter, a song of those two ended. K9 Amber! So who'd this be? Or so the damn beast thought. Howling echoes! Luke's cloaked in a bright red aura, held by a spectral shield in his left hand. With a wide swipe of his shield, the dark smoke around him and Rune disappeared, revealed both the warriors unarmed, harmed. The vague form of a canine head in Luke's surrounding aura looked straight up at the furious, winded-out monster. The canine head in the aura smiled. You alright back there? Can't complain. Thanks for coming. Don't mention it, buddy. Thanks for letting me borrow your human again. Just be careful with him. He's been through a lot. The ghost of Luke's body staring at this snarling monster over him. In Luke's body. The monster kept a safe distance, and its glowing white eyes looked down with uncertainty. "Fear not, little Rune." The ghost raised Luke's right hand up into the sky. One after another, various charges of mana from their surroundings started flowing into his body. Those things, avian, everything suited to soothe the strain on Luke's overworked body. And then, out of nowhere, a spark of red light blinked and grew in the sky. As fast as a shooting star, a glowing spectral sword fell right into his open hand, making the floor tremble from the impact. He took a few steps forward, leaving two faint boot prints over the metal surface where he stood just a second earlier. After all, both you and I have seen it. The boundless potential of humans. A giant flying monster looming over them took another breath. Its throat and underbelly lined up again, and the sparks sprang from the corner of its maw. It fell around him like glowing snow. The smaller monsters started gathering around as well. One way or another, the battle drew closer toward its conclusion. "I'll buy you a minute, no more. You have to sort yourself out before I disappear." Leaving room behind, Luke dashed forward and approaching smalling monsters, slaying them with his new spectral gear, cloaked in a bright red, person-shaped mysterious aura. One after another, the beasts fell under a single slash each. The warriors attacked with perfect precision, overwhelming strength, and with a technique superior even to Rune's. Dusk himself did nothing but sat down and enjoyed this symphony of battle sounds around him. Listening to Luke, reaching the heights of swordsmanship even he couldn't measure up to. Rune didn't mind that. He wasn't jealous. It was, in fact, his most heartfelt wish taking form. He could finally be the damsel in distress, who's being saved by a wonderful hero. And by one of the moons himself, nonetheless, the legendary canon hero, who's supposed to be the delicious bacon of hope to all good boys, come to his aid too. Even through the blindness in his eye lingered, he couldn't see the fight. He could just hear it. Every sound of perfect slashing filled him with pride and childlike excitement. In a way, they're still connected via pack mentality, but due to the nature of the howling echoes, Luke didn't share with him any of his senses. Luke wasn't really performing the pack mentality with Rune, but with the original Moon himself. That was a very good thing in his mind. Hearing the fight, but not being an active participant, was proof to Rune that he indeed wasn't any of those dead moons. Howling Echoes was an ember born on weakness, selfishness, willful ignorance, and completely broken logic. But in Rune's mind, it was the most honest miracle. With full utilization of the foreign mana charges burning inside his body, Moon dodged another monstrous assault by leaping at the wall of a nearby building and then jumped right at the flying giant. Just like before with Rune, the creature swung its spiky tail right at the incoming enemy. Even with his maneuverability limited midair, there wasn't a hint of fear or uncertainty in the warrior. Right before he was about to be impaled on the spikes, he twisted his whole body and slashed right through them with the sword, splitting the whole lot like straws. And then he immediately grabbed onto the wound tip of the tail. He barely dodged the following snapping of the giant jaws, and then the tail swung back. He used it to propel himself higher into the air. The monster turned around and opened its glowing maw right in the direction of the enemy above it. The creature's throat and underbelly glowed with fury, allowing for another incoming magic breath. And right at the moment, when the sparks turned into blinding flames, the warrior's heavy sword pierced straight into the monster's wing-shoulder joint, throwing it like a javelin. With the wing's mobility locked in by a spectral weapon stuck between the bones, the dragon tumbled midair, spewing the deadly beam of light in random directions, unable to stop it. With everything turning around it, the beast couldn't even register the incoming enemy. The glowing shield bashed right at the side of its scaly head. The monster felt a tug at one of its horns. "How's about you put your dog-damn mouth to better use?" With another bash of its strong push, the warrior forced the remainder of the monster's magic break blast at the base of the control tower. Once the giant body hit the floor and the brightness of its mouth finally subsided, Moon was pleased to see the significant damage in the entrance door of the tower. Without skipping a beat, he jumped forward and turned around, barely blocking the strike of the monster's claws. He immediately reached his glowing hand in the direction of his spectral sword, stuck in the monster's wing joint. The blade trembled, and then turned full circle, disappeared, and finally exploded into a disk of white-red light, sending a bone-chilling chime across the battlefield. The monster roared in pain and fury as the whole severed wing fell onto the floor. The black blood sprayed from the open wounds on his shoulder and the tip of its tail. With a smile on his face, Moon attracted yet another charge of Surian mana and expertly burned it to generate any damage he could have inflicted on Luke's body. The red aura flickered and started to fade away. Oh, how much I wish I could have my true awakening in this life too. All the things we could do. But it's fine. It's not my life. Not my battle. Till next time, Luke the human. Take good care of that dumb slut for me, will ya? And just like that. Okay, the thing is, I don't know how long this goes. I mean, I guess I could quickly look. Because that would be an interesting place to put it back, but I wouldn't want to do it like that one time where I did it and it's like, okay, that's gonna be the end of this. Let's play. It's like, hello, and then it's like, what? No wait, it was like 5 to 10 minutes. And it's like, Oh, interesting. Oh, I might need to redo a thing, because I'm looking at this thing to see how far it goes. And it might be like before, where when we go in, it might, finish. But it also says there's 2 outcomes, and whether or not we did the eye gem thing, which I think we did. I'm not sure if it's a thing where it's like, hey, no matter what, if you did it once, you get to see it. Or if I have to actually, redo it or anything like that. But I'm pretty sure we did. Whatever the case, let's keep going. I stand in front of the giant dragon-like monster. It is in much rougher condition than a moment ago. One of its wings cut off, and it misses a part of its tail. Actually, face rig needs to reset. Guess I could neutral pose it much better. Brune? I'm still in one piece, but I don't have any weapons on me. Brune isn't by my side. And I can't take my eyes off the wounded giant in front of me. It won't take its eyes off me either. It roars and starts stomping towards me. I hear some of the other monsters shrieking from various points on the battlefield, but all of my attention is focused on the giant dragon charging at me. I should run, should cry for help, but for some reason I'm not scared. My mind doesn't register that the end of my life is approaching me with those heavy stumps. No, I can take it on. What, you want some? You want peace of me? I don't turn my back on the beast to run away. Instead, I charge right at it. Even though my voice cannot be heard over the all-consuming, bellowing roar of the beast in front of me, I still give my best battle shout. The building-sized paw raises and swipes down at me, and I answer with a wide swing of my own fist. The towering beast blocks all of the moonlight over me, and when my fist and his paw draw close to each other, I get knocked the fuck out. I get tackled from the side, barely avoiding being mangled by the giant claw paw. Mate, what the heck? Let me at him, Rune. I'll show him. Ow. My cheek suddenly explodes in burning pain with the shape of Rune's open palm. Even I couldn't take him on with just my bare fist. You're still manic from the Ember, mate. Chill out. The what? This is my battle. Leave it to me. Yours is here. We stop running and stop in the open entrance of one of the buildings. Dim light over the gate fills me with joy. That's a sign that Max has finally turned on the emergency power system. Except this isn't the tourist control tower. We're still 2 buildings off. Rune, are you still blind? Oops. Yeah. Then how'd you plan to take out that thing without being able to see? Oh, trust me, I've taken bigger. I don't even need my eyes to put that giant fuck waffle in place. I only need a breather. Needed a breather. I needed to know that I'm not alone in this battle. And you already gave me that. Thanks, mate. Okay. And I guess improved senses from all the different manas aren't gonna hurt either. I'm pretty sure we investigated that eye thing, right? Let's just, since this thing's a bit, stuff. Let's see, gallery. Not events to do. Baka! Well, I kind of would want to do that. So I guess that'll be the end of this Let's Play. We might, bark back to here. And then, check out that other stuff. Anyways, end of this Let's Play. So comment, because I like comments. If you like, dislike, tips, as always. If you like my YouTube and would like to see it grow, then please like, subscribe, and check out the videos epic grow. And please remember to spay new animals to control the pit population. Now, where would Rune be? You could always just, this would be Rune's thing. I need to have lunch because I'm hungry, but also really warm. And until next time, let's say me, GamerWolfSix of Shelter. See ya.